people buried around the
Isn't
church.
that something?
Well, it's so old, you know, it was 1800.
Yeah. So it's that old.
Yeah, it's really old.
Wow. Yeah, I remember going in there and seeing it. And we had Peter with, remember?
Yes, I remember.
And he was, no, it wasn't Peter, it was David.
No, I've never been out there.
You need to come
Well,
on
you
here.
don't remember it, you don't
I've never
remember
been.
that.
I remember.
Yeah, it would have been you. And you were 3 months old.
Oh, there.
That's what you don't remember.
No,
You weren't
it
paying
couldn't-
attention.
No, it couldn't have been, I'm wrong. I'm wrong there. It
Well, I know
was-
Ellen was there.
It was when you were there.
Yeah.
And the.
Here, I can tell you the exact
church was
year.
connected to the parsonage, kind of.
It was
along.
1996 or 1997,
Yeah.
right in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out, you know, exactly when this, but I remember, I know the last time we were there, it was your birthday. It was your
Yep.
40th birthday.
Yeah,
Oh, you were
And
still
so how
in.
many years ago is that?
yeah, we were in town.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that I was going to be getting this church, so that's why I brought you out there to show it to you.
Yeah, I'm
Because I wanted to see it,
I'm
you know.
glad you did. Yes, I was in, I'm sure that, I remember it was old in my, now, is this the one in the country?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
and I've been there since 1996, so,
Okay.
and I'm gonna stay there until
Wow.
whenever.
I gotta write that on, David, write that on there for me.
You know, we have a Lutheran denomination, it's kinda like John, you know, John's, that it's called the Evangelical Lutheran Conference and Ministry, and we have 14 churches around the country.
Really?
So,
really.
there's no other place to go. So I couldn't, you know.
Yeah, I know that.
We have one in
I
Florida.
remember when you were gonna be confirmed,
Yeah,
that Linda was so afraid that you would be confirmed only to that church.
yeah, the Missouri Synod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that you couldn't take communion and all
That particular pastor his name was Thomas Armour, and he was really a good man.
Yeah.
You know, the Missouri Synod people in the East Coast are a little more open-minded than the ones around here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, Missouri Synod still, there's two churches outside of, well, one in Echo.
Yeah.
And that is Wisconsin
Yeah,
Synod.
they're really tough.
And that one is a strict one.
I know, it's amazing.
Nobody's welcome. If you come for a funeral, they kind of look at you, how come you're here, you know?
Yeah.
And you're never invited to come to that church.
And the ELS church out here is the same thing, right?
Well, Posen Church, which is west of Echo,
What
Yeah.
way?
is Missouri Synod, and
Okay.
that's not quite so strict.
Okay.
That one isn't quite so strict.
south
But
of
the
what
one
way?
in town is terrible. I know that.
But that Rockdale church out here,
That's a different thing
Yeah.
again.
yeah, that's Evangelical Lutheran Church. They're from
Yeah,
Mankato,
yeah,
and they're Norwegian
yeah.
people.
And
That are
they're
sort of like the
really-
Wisconsin
They're
Synod.
like the Wisconsin
I know,
Synod.
I know.
Can't take communion. You
I don't
can't
think
be
they
in
even
the
get along with the
wedding.
Wisconsin Synod. Yeah.
That's it. It's just ridiculous,
I know.
think. Now, they've gotten a little bit better in Echo because they're losing members.
I know, it's what,
Everybody is.
Yeah.
You know, and there's no Sunday school anymore. And there's no ladies' aid. They had
Yeah.
about 3 people that came, and they finally dropped it.
well, we're the same thing. It's like it just sort of,
It's all over.
Yeah.
It's town churches, it's country
Yeah.
churches, it's all over. And of course in Granite, they have the new Rock Haven. That's interdenominational.
oh, no,
And so they're like a free church.
yeah,
And they go there, the young people love it.
yeah,
Because it's more open.
Yeah.
And you come in the door, they don't take offering,
Yeah.
but they have a pail there you can put your offering
nice.
in before you get in the church.
yeah,
And then they serve coffee before church. And I guess during church, I know that they don't say the creed like
No,
we do.
no,
And they don't allow infant baptisms.
yeah,
But it is, the kids are people that left our church. It was kind of split down the middle. And we had one that was very against the gays, against everything.
Yeah.
And he got on his computer and he recruited practically all these people to
Wow.
come to Rock Haven.
He
wow.
doesn't even know
And
that
he had
himself.
his followers
What, he left that
that lived
too?
with
Yeah,
him.
they kicked him out, I think.
Wow.
He had his followers that kind of came with him.
Yeah.
And then they started the church downtown in Bellevue,
Okay.
you know, and that was a break off from our church too.
Wow.
But
And
it's
that
just
one
like
is
ours.
just like ours. It's exactly like ours. And they have baptism there. And they have communion.
Yeah.
And it's like they even use our old hymnal.
Yeah.
Is that which one do you go
That's the one
to?
that's on the
Rockville.
old
Rockville,
grocery
yeah.
store, it's on Main Street.
Okay.
You know, but
Is that the one that John goes to?
Yeah.
That's what
Okay.
John goes to.
That's where
But Rockhaven and Granite is an old implement place,
No,
and
it
it
was
was
an
a
old car
huge
dealership.
building.
Oh, yeah.
Over Killeen Motors.
Yeah.
Way on the west end of Granite Falls.
That's what they like. They don't want to meet in a church building.
Yeah.
It's on the road to Montevideo,
Okay.
on that road. And they have gotten practically all the young people from every church, from the Catholic
Wow.
Church, from the Baptist Church, from every church. And so every church is suffering because of it. But they go with the friends go,
I know. That's what happens.
Yeah.
you know. So it's just a popular church right now. And it's sad to see. I mean, I've been there for a baby shower, some kind
funeral.
of a shower, bridal shower.
was a funeral.
A funeral.
Yeah.
And that's about all. So I really don't know that much about it, except that at the funeral, I don't remember whose, but anyway, it was, I think, a neighbor of ours or something, so we went to the funeral. And all of our women, the young, active ones that helped in the kitchen, were back in their kitchen serving the lunch.
Yeah.
or
That's
so.
something.
Which makes you just,
I know. It's true.
Now we kept a few of the good ones, like Harlan Lisi's and Leanne, and their parents were very strong in
Sure,
the
sure.
church. And like Leanne says, she just retired from the bank, working in the bank.
Yeah.
And so she's, I think, going to be active because she wants to see the church
I know.
stay open.
It's true. You hate to see it. The church is 100 and some
You
years
know.
old and have it closed. You know.
Yeah, and it's just, strange. And like Beth, her church, that's even different because that is it used to be a Swedish Lutheran church.
Yeah.
Way back when.
Like Augustana Synod, right? Yeah.
And the old people there, their regular pastor had been there about 15, 20 years.
Sure, sure.
And he was retirement age, so he retired. They couldn't find a pastor. And they finally got a gay person as the pastor. And she, the first one they had a partner, and the partner came and sat up in the front row practically. And everybody, accepted that just
Sure,
fine.
sure.
They're just glad to have a pastor.
Yeah.
And but the young people that don't like the change, which surprises me.
Yeah.
That's
'Cause
strange.
we were willing to change. In fact, the resolution in our church was the annual meeting when all this was going on. They made a resolution that we would not hire a gay pastor,
Yeah.
and we would not perform a wedding
Sure.
for a gay couple. And that's about it. That's about all that was.
And then what? Did the
Uh,
synod
well,
probably didn't send you a pastor then,
we
right?
would stay, some people would stay because we had that resolution.
yeah.
Nobody did.
Isn't that funny? They left
It made
anyway.
a difference.
Well, they needed a 2/3 majority to win,
Oh.
Just,
but they did get the votes.
but we know it now, the older people, the people that
They voted
sat around
twice.
me in church especially, my good friends, and they
Yeah.
lost their husbands, and
Sure.
then they have died, And so our older people are dying off.
Yeah,
And pretty soon we won't have any left.
yeah.
And a lot of us aren't able to serve an aid yet. I told myself I can bake a cake, I can do that much. But I can't come and stand and work.
No.
That just doesn't work.
No.
I
Well,
can't
we had
stand that long.
we had a turkey supper for 158 years, and it was a big thing. We had to stop doing it because we couldn't get people to work on it.
Yeah.
You know?
It's really sad.
Yeah.
Now the funeral yesterday, I don't know where they catered it from.
Elsie's in Clarkfield,
Was the new
and
one in
then
Carver?
fortunately Linda stepped up to the plate.
Well,
and-
that's good, I'm
Yeah.
glad they are using the one in Clarkfield, that's good.
Yeah, well, we didn't know what else to do. I mean, I was
No,
out in,
no.
out in New York trying to plan it, and
No.
they said the other,
But
I could have gone to the Hy-Vee in Marshall. Well, then you have to go to Marshall and get the food and drive it back,
Yeah, I
so.
know it, so that doesn't work. And we debated, because we've always had a church supper, except last year we couldn't.
Yeah, yeah.
Because of the restrictions. But this year they debated whether or not to have it. And I was all in favor of having it, keeping it in our church.
Yeah,
But we got to church in our ladies' aid meeting, and they were talking about, well, one of them wanted us to cater
yeah,
the
yeah.
food,
Sure.
part of it, to keep the supper going. I said, we wouldn't,
You'd lose
we would
money.
pay more for
Yeah.
the catering
Yeah.
than anything else.
Well, that's for sure.
And-
Yeah.
and
Yeah, the
so it's just-
the catering at Elsie's wasn't cheap.
Was
Yeah,
not cheap.
yeah, and so that wasn't worth it, and I said, I totally changed my mind, I said, we can't do it.
Yeah.
And then the one.
And we also bought extra food,
Yeah.
so it was
Yeah.
expensive, plus we bought
But
the
it's-
fruit and,
You know, we've had funerals and we've managed to do them so far
yeah.
without catering. In fact, the last two funerals we had,
Well, one was catered.
we told them we would provide filled buns and cake.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
If they wanted more, they'd have to bring it.
Yeah.
The last
they
one,
did.
they brought the food.
The one
so-
funeral.
Well, the one that was catered, where do they get a caterer
Well,
from?
they did cater it. That was-
Oh, okay,
They brought the food.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, then that's a bad thing too. When you have to do a funeral, you don't wanna have the grieving spouse making sandwiches,
well, we
so-
used to, if it was a 11 o'clock funeral, we always had scalloped potatoes made in the roaster. Scalloped potatoes with
I'd eat that.
ham,
Yeah, it's good.
with ham, and that was just a thing we did.
Some
And
good
Joe-
roasters.
and-
Well, I know Grandpa Halverson always used to enjoy a good funeral,
Yeah.
just so we can get some free food,
Yeah. There is
We did
that.
have people that came.
I know. Yeah, that's what he would do. He liked
Oh, the
that.
poor guy.
And you get to see people you haven't seen in a long time.
Now, the last funeral we had was just a burial, I
No,
think, wasn't it?
yeah.
Who was
Well,
the
they had a
last one we
service
had?
and then the burial.
Who was the last funeral?
It was Clara Hodgson.
I can't remember.
She
But
was
anyway,
106.
Wow, that's amazing,
The
huh?
oldest person in our church.
I bet she would have some stories, huh?
Oh, yeah, they were good stuff.
Yeah,
Did you know her?
Yeah, kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
106, imagine that.
Yeah.
yeah. But it's the lady that,
But they provided the food, so the
Yeah.
family did.
because our family has always had our pew in
Yes,
church. you
yeah.
know. And when they had the fair at Hawk Creek, they joined our church. You know,
Okay.
that whole time when it was built.
Yeah.
Instead of using our church, which, could just as well have used our church and kept coming to our church.
How far is Hawk Creek? Like 10 miles or?
Oh,
Yeah,
it's about,
10 miles.
Yeah.
how much?
10,
You think it's that far?
at least 10.
Maybe, but anyway.
So what did they do? They rebuilt their
We were
church?
so happy to have
Brand
them
new.
and tried to make them welcome and, and we worked well together.
Yeah.
But they would not give up building
Now,
their
people
church.
like to have their own church like right down the street, and they don't want to drive,
Yeah.
They'll drive 40 miles to go to Walmart though.
It
They were
was-
able to save their old altar,
Oh,
and so they
It
had
was-
that in a special room.
they got that out, huh?
Yeah,
Wow.
It was all
but the rest of it was totally
country
lost, so-
church, and-
Were they struck by lightning?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh my
and they
goodness.
met,
Hit the
it's
steeple
funny
and it
because,
Oh.
yeah,
Well, we have a lightning rod.
Well, they did too, but
It didn't work?
no,
right on here, David.
I don't have.
Yeah,
a
this,
plan on
this is what our church looks like.
Or actually, have you read it?
it.
And
I
you
don't have a
read,
pen on it.
Mark can read on it. I guess it says on the back.
Yeah, it says,
but-
this is in the back.
Yeah,
That's an old picture, but it looks the
So
same.
your parsonage is in the country too then?
No, it's right next
Right
door.
next to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I don't remember seeing the parsonage.
It's a big white
The other
house.
parsonage, the other church
The other
in
one was-
Wayne
yeah,
was
that was-
right next
yeah.
door, yeah. That
No,
one I
no,
remember.
No, but this parsonage was built in 1870 and it has
Yeah,
a big hall in the middle and the rooms are small, so you
Yeah.
can't put like modern furniture in it.
Yeah.
And no closets.
Yeah, that's true.
Do they have their own pews like they do in Williamsburg, or?
Well, yeah, the pews are numbered, but, you know, back in the old days, you would
Yeah.
like rent a pew, you know, but they
Yeah.
don't do that anymore, but the pews, the numbers are still there.
Yeah.
But the people
That
still
was the
sit
strangest thing I
in
saw.
their
Do you
pews.
remember, Mark, when David was born, you and Linda were sponsors?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And were you going to school at that time? You must have been.
Yeah, I think I was.
Because you were in Marshall.
Yeah.
And your mother and dad were there.
And you were probably baptized in the middle of a snowstorm or something,
It was
right?
like March 17th.
Yeah, that was probably, yeah, in the middle of a blizzard.
I'm sure.
Well, it was wow,
Stay tuned
my
about that.
husband's funeral, that your dad would not say for him.
Yeah.
It was postponed because of a storm.
Oh,
And so, no, he had to get back.
no, he has a thing about being,
Yeah, they headed straight
we
back.
we
He
got him.
had some
got stuck in the
Mason
snow.
thing going
No,
on.
he doesn't, he wanted to leave like yesterday, but Mary, you know, made
Oh,
him stay,
yeah.
you know.
And he was just determined he would not stay, and Linda was so mad.
Well, the last time,
She wanted to stay.
well, when I came up here a
And
couple
he
years
would
ago,
not. So they started out, I don't know what time, but they
Probably
only got as
40,
far
yeah.
as Sioux City.
yeah,
You know, not that
Sioux
far, Sioux
Falls.
Falls.
Yeah,
And they went in the ditch or
Yeah.
whatever, so.
that was funny. Yeah.
it just.
well, no, when I was here 2 years ago, I wanted to go to church, Hazel Run on Sunday to meet the minister and talk to him,
Right,
because that's important, you know?
right.
Because like, you know, kind of anticipate something
Sure.
like, you know, the funeral,
Sure.
whatever. I want to know him. Well, no, he had to leave, so we left like Sunday morning at like 4 o'clock in the morning to get back to Oklahoma.
He always did that, and I
Yeah.
remember, I stayed a week, almost a week. I think that was when I was still working. It was Christmas time.
Yeah,
And I came there for Christmas
Uh-huh.
by myself and flew in and stayed in their house,
Uh-huh.
you know. And it turned out that, you know, the weather was fine, the flight was fine, but when we got to Tulsa,
uh-oh.
it was ice storm.
Oh, no.
Yes, so
That's what they get in
it was
Oklahoma.
horrible.
It's not cold enough for snow and warm enough for rain, so they get ice storms all the time.
They had ice, and that was, you know,
I suppose
scary.
they don't have salt
driving,
for the
but-
roads either.
Not really, no. Because in a day or two, the sun comes out and melts it, so they don't.
Yeah.
But no, the ice is really bad down there. That's one of the only problems
I'm
I've
so
got.
glad I did that, because I saw Mary's house and
Sure.
everything, you know, and we were there for Christmas. Well, your mother insisted she had a Christmas Eve
Yes.
at their place.
Yeah.
And we had the traditional rice and.
Rice mush with the
ribs
almond in it.
And ribs and
Yeah, yeah.
lessa and so on. But-
No lutefisk though, it's hard to get.
Yeah, but I stayed, I think, a whole week because the return flight, I think I left on Tuesday, came back on a Thursday. or
Yeah, so that's what we're doing. We're flying on a
Yeah.
Tuesday. You know,
Yeah.
it's a good time to, you
something.
know.
Yeah, yeah, so,
But with the hurricane, it's interesting to see what's gonna happen. We might have a challenge getting back to New York.
Yeah.
but when I was trying to think, what year were you in Marshall?
Yes.
What year?
Oh, I was in Marshall from the fall of 1973 till the spring of 1975. I say 2 years.
Then it was you,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
that I, you know, you were about, she was born the 13th of February,
Yeah.
yeah. And,
And I think you were born in a snowstorm too.
Probably.
no,
Not as bad as
oh,
John's,
yes,
probably.
Yeah.
oh, that was terrible.
Yeah, you didn't make it to the
Yeah,
hospital or.
Bob needed to change oil in the car, and I'd had a backache that day, and I thought, something's happening here.
Yeah.
Well, he came home for supper, and he says, "Can I go down to the garage? Will you be okay until I come back?" And I said, "Yeah, I think so." I said, "Oh, so far all I got is a backache." He came back, and it was raining, and we had lots of snow that year.
Yeah.
So there was rain on top of snow, and the roads were terrible. So he came back, and I said, "We have to go right now." You know? And so
Now
we
you're trying to make it
started
to
out.
Granite?
We started out and got as far as the highway, And it was the time when they allowed studded
Yes,
tires.
yes, yeah.
And I said, I think that Elise's have studded tires. And Bob said, yeah, I'm pretty sure they do too. So we drove up to their house, and this was, I was trying to think now, because Hildora, her husband had just had a stroke and he wasn't well. But it happened that Harlan and Linda, they had just been married, and they were there with their car, and their car had studded tires. So we went to the end of the driveway, and they said, where do you want to go? We were on our way to Granite, and that's where we should have gone.
Yeah,
But we got to the end of the driveway, and I said, I don't care, but you need to get there now.
yeah, it's true.
And I had visions of having that baby in the car, and I thought, how can you have a baby in the car? And you can't even lay down.
It happen every day.
In John's case, that would have been a good thing.
You know, he was, it wasn't my first pregnancy,
Right.
so I
It's
I
gonna
was
be
okay
fast.
with it. So we started out for Bellevue instead,
Yeah.
and actually, that was a good thing.
So he was born here?
No, that
I
was
was
John.
born
who was
here
born
in this apartment, or in the nursing
No.
home. The nursing home.
That was John.
That was John. Oh, see, I'm a
so then where were you born?
Lately.
Oh, and they made it to the hospital then?
Yeah, that
Okay.
was John, we didn't make it.
Yeah, so John was born here.
So, since this,
There's
whatever
a shrine,
I
I
had,
think, to-
I can't.
Yeah, a shrine. There's a,
I think I have to stop and think which generation they were born.
Yeah, I'm David, not John.
But
yeah,
they-
David said there's a bronze plaque down the hall where John was born.
Oh, that's fun.
Is that true?
But anyway, I made it.
There should be one, don't you
Probably
think?
should be.
Yeah, I think
He
so.
probably thinks so.
Yeah, that's true.
We stopped.
His name is on the plaque. I think.
We stopped downtown and there was light in the clinic, and we had a doctor out in Bellevue.
Yes.
And he was there.
Wow,
And he
lucky
said-
break.
He said, I said, do you want me to come in? And he said, no, we'll go to the nursing home. At least there's a bed
Wow.
you'll be in.
Wow.
And so we did, got to the nursing home, and I was just miserable. If I could have pushed, that baby would have been born way before he
Yeah.
was. And we got to the nursing home, and old Doc Strackler, and he was a character. But anyway, he came with us in the car.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he said, he checked me, and he said, you can get to the hospital.
Easy for him to
I
say.
said, no, I can't. I said, if I had dared push it, he would have been born before this.
It's funny.
But that was done. See, I can't, I have to stop and think which one of
Because that
my
story
kids
sounded
I'm
more like
talking about.
John's.
It's a good one though.
Yeah.
They tell me that's just old age.